It's time once again for the Jedi Guybrarian's Holocron. Today we're reading sections from chapters 7 and 8 in the Rise of Skywalker novel by Ray Carson. These two chapters have a lot to do with the Force and how it affects different characters. In chapter 7 on page 98, see if you can pick up on the foreshadowing about what other character may have some Force abilities. Where is Chewie? Finn peered out the cockpit viewport. It was hard to make out details from here, but it seemed Rey was crouched, her lightsaber lit. He could be out there too, helping her. The strangest thing then happened. In yearning to help her, in reaching for her, Finn sensed something. A danger. A presence. "It's Ren," he whispered. "Probably just a bad feeling, right?" Just in case, he put a hand to his holster to check his blaster. Finn can sense that Kylo Ren is approaching. Just a feeling, perhaps. Or perhaps foreshadowing? Okay, let's move ahead a little to page 101, when Rey and Kylo are both using the Force to pull a large transport ship out of the sky. She strained to regain control, and she felt the ship lurch in her direction, but then it whipped right back. Rey tried to remember her training. "Let the Force guide your actions," Leia would say. But thinking of Leia, her training, even for the briefest moment, made Rey lose concentration, and the ship listed again in Kylo's direction. So Rey bore down with all the strength of her being. Blood screamed in her ears, and her heart was a massive drum in her chest. She drew on her rage at Kylo, at the First Order, even at Unkar Plutt. She drew on her terror for Chewie's life, remembered what it felt like to watch Han Solo drop into the abyss at Starkiller Base. She drew on pain, too, the aching hollowness of an empty stomach, the bruised knuckles with no Bacta to soothe them, the feel of grit in her molars after a windy day, the dagger-sharp silence of loneliness. Rey opened her mouth in a silent scream. Raw power burst from her fingertips, arced toward the freighter. It was blue lightning, pure Force energy, brighter than a lightsaber, hotter than a sun. It wrapped its deadly, crooked fingers around the transport, which jerked sideways for the briefest instant, and then exploded into a sickening fireball. Rey stumbled back, gasping for air, as bits of wreckage rained down on the desert plain. The transport and everyone inside reduced to nothingness. She stared down at her hand in horror, then at the bits of wreckage. Now, in the movie version, the lightning just happens during this moment, but in the novel, we get the details of what Rey was feeling and thinking that made it happen. She was feeling anger and rage and pain, and all that negativity opened up the dark side of the Force to let lightning shoot from her hands. That's a big warning to Rey of the dark side abilities that she could use, and it's a bit of foreshadowing of where her dark side powers could actually come from. By the way, there was an excellent use of the writing technique called personification when the lightning is described as a hand wrapping its deadly crooked fingers around the transport. It's right after this moment that we also get to know Kylo's thoughts about what just happened. He'd been right to push her. She had just demonstrated unbelievable mind-blowing power. Dark power. Sith power. The scavenger was almost ready to turn, and when she did, they would both kill their light, embrace their darkness. Then the Star Destroyer fleet and the Sith throne would be theirs. So Kylo, seeing Rey's potential for darkness and power, is thinking that the two of them could defeat the Emperor with their combined dark power and then be the new Sith rulers of the galaxy together. This way of thinking can be compared to another character, Kylo's grandfather, Darth Vader, aka Anakin Skywalker, who thought that he and his son Luke could work together, using the dark side to defeat the Emperor and rule the galaxy as a Sith father and son. Darth Vader actually thinks and talks about this in the novels The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Then, in Chapter 8, we find out that Rey's dark visions, including the one she had back at the beginning of the book, are actually connected to, well, you find out when she tells Finn on page 104. Finn stepped forward. His face was stricken. He said, "It wasn't your fault." "It was," Rey said, unable to look at him. "I lost control." "No, it was Ren. He made you do it." Rey shook her head. "You saw what happened. That power came from me. Finn, there are things you don't know." "Then tell me." He gazed at her, waiting patiently, no trace of judgment on his face. Rey hadn't been able to bring herself to tell Leia, but maybe she could tell Finn. She had to tell someone, or the secret would devour her from within. She whispered, "I had a vision of the throne of the Sith. I saw who was on it." Finn's eyes narrowed. "Ren?" Rey nodded. "And me." Finn's mouth parted. Rey looked away, unable to face him. Yikes! Rey's dark visions include the idea of her and Kylo being evil rulers together on Sith thrones. Definitely a hero being tempted to the dark side. And this is a great moment of literary conflict, but not the physical kind between an empire and a rebellion or a first order versus a resistance. No, this is the person versus self conflict, when a character is struggling mentally and emotionally inside with who they are and who they want to be. Now, some people might also say this is the person versus supernatural conflict because of Rey's struggle with the supernatural force, but I really see it more as an internal struggle that Rey is having with herself, which is also why she sees herself as a dark side Rey in some of these visions. She is having conflict with who she wants to be. So, in chapters 7 to 8, we have 3 different characters all being affected by the Force in different ways. Finn is perhaps starting to feel a connection to the Force. Kylo, like his grandfather, thinks he's meant to rule the galaxy with the dark side of the Force, and in this case with Rey by his side. And Rey is on the hero's journey, the classic mythical archetype, and she's at the point where the hero must resist the temptation to the dark side of the Force, even as it offers her immense power. Okay, that's all for today. Don't forget, if you want to comment or discuss anything Star Wars, you can do so on the Google Classroom page for Shahela's Sci-Fi Fantasy Club. Just request the code from me. And if you'd like to practice some language arts skills, there are a few questions available that go with every video for those students interested. Until next time, may the Force and reading be with you, and may you successfully resist the dark side.